So welcome to the third session today. The first two sessions have been quite so amazing about freelancing and seeing education through a global lens. Now we have Dr. Nicola, and before we start her session, just if you could just let me know how you feel using these emotions on the screen. You can use the chart and you can just click on the emotion that shows how you're feeling. I was feeling frustrated. If you had asked me earlier today, I would have said frustrated because my technology was messing me up. But right now, I'm so excited and happy. So that's me. So I can see someone is feeling chill, cozy. That's great. Curious, yes. I'm also curious about Dr. Nicola's session, which is she's going to be talking about a project on AI, which I really look forward to. Someone is feeling okay. But please mute yourself. Okay. I'll just mute everyone. Yeah. Okay. So fair enough. Nobody's feeling annoyed or frustrated or disappointed, which also makes it somebody's feeling energetic. Amazing. So I'm going to hand over to you, Dr. Nicola. Take it away. Introduce yourself. There's no way I can do justice to that. So I'm going to leave you to also introduce yourself. So I'll hand over to you. Wow.
Oh.
Thoughts?
Hi everyone, I'm just getting there. Can everybody see that?
Yes, I can see it.
Great. Well, it's great to be here. I know that when it comes to L&D, there's so many talented people since we soft launched Disco Analytics a year ago. I've met so many talented people, and several of them are here. And it's really important for our own sense of purpose that we can prove our value to our clients, our employers, and to our learners that what we're doing, we know it's valuable, but we really do need to prove that. So what I'm going to share today is how we can rethink learning evaluation. We are using AI, but I just want everybody to know that actually from our own research, we believe that everybody's already sitting on a gold, a field of gold. It's just how do we mine that? So let's first think, what does gold look like when it comes to evaluating and proving and improving the value of what we offer? Well, we know that those insights, they need to be fast, because the quicker that we get those insights, the quicker we can improve and prove our value. And of course, it needs to be budget friendly. We all know that L&D is often the business function that gets their budget slashed. So whatever it does, we have to have something that's high value, but doesn't cost, doesn't, rob us from our precious budgets. And we need something that's really easy to do. We want insights that doesn't require a PhD in learning analytics, a few clicks of the button and we could get those insights. And of course, like gold, it has to be valuable, insight that we can really act on. So if you're an instructional designer, you know exactly what you can do to improve it. But to get those sort of valuable insights, we really need to get granular insights because we need to pinpoint what's working, what's not, and why. Now, as much as expertise as we all have, the people that really know how to help us be on the top of our game is our learners, the learners themselves, and really tap into the real voices of those that are participating in the amazing learning experiences that everybody's offering. But it needs to be actionable, and that's sort of tied in with granular. We need to, have real insights in how we can action it to increase the value of what we're doing, not just for the learners, but for the businesses and organizations that we work for. And of course, we need a solution that is hugely scalable, can work at any size. You might be working with a small group of learners, but we also need an approach that could work, into the millions. There's not many solutions in terms of learning analytics, but quite often the really big, robust ones are only accessible to the large enterprises. And so we also need an accessible approach where it doesn't matter who you are, what your budget is, whether you're a one-person band or a huge enterprise, we need something that's really scalable. And linking in with that speed, we need something that's really automatable, because manual learning analytics can be really time consuming. And this is really important, we need something that we can repeat over time consistently, because if you have you've invested a lot of time into a learning experience and then you improve it, you want to be able to compare its value over time or with other learning experiences you offer, so you can see which ones. So this is what gold looks like. But here's the problem. We're not looking in the right places. So imagine a treasure map. The cross is in the wrong way. And we really need to find, as I said, hinted at the beginning, we're all sitting on this gold mine, in a gold field. We know that there's gold there, but unless we know where to go to find it and have the right tools to actually mine it, that gold, even though it's there, is inaccessible. So that's what I've been really thinking about a lot. And for months now, we've been developing something that can help us do that. So what's the real problem? Now, we all know that I think people call them smiley sheets are problematic. But one of the major ways that we're currently asking for feedback is through survey tools. That might be on a scale of 1 to 5 or on a Likert scale, such as from strong, you're presented with a statement and it's from, strongly agreed to strongly disagree. However, with these types of, these are, surveys are considered by many as a gold standard, fair enough, but that we can only find what we're looking for. Now, just to demonstrate surveys' limitations, I would love a volunteer from the audience. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. I want to test something. So is anyone brave enough to answer a few questions for me? Oh.
So we have a volunteer in there, Adenike.
Oh, right. Sorry, I suddenly thought for the last 5 minutes I've been talking to myself.
No, we can hear you loud and clear.
So you can all see my screen. Does anybody want to volunteer to answer a few questions?
We have 2 people in the chat who have volunteered to answer. So you have to pick one person, or can the 2 of them go ahead? If you look at the chat, can you see the chat?
Okay. Well, maybe because it would be great if it was verbal. Shall I do it with you?
Okay, I'm going to unmute them.
Okay, Yindamela. I have some questions for you, and you must answer them just like with a scale, from 1 being not very much to 5 very much. So my first question is then, to what extent are you enjoying today?
That will be a 4 from Adenike.
Ah, for me it's a 5. Okay. Why did you get into L&D? What drew you into this field? You can only answer from 1 to 5.
5.
5.
Yeah, 5 for me.
Okay, so 5. So I asked, why did you get to L&D? Didn't quite really get apart from a 5. Okay, so how about what learning will you take from today and apply in your work, day-to-day work?
The numbers don't really, I don't know how to describe it with the numbers. Yeah.
Just pluck a number out of the sky.
5.
Okay. And in what ways do you think it will improve your business?
5.
I think we've just demonstrated that when we're asking questions on a scale like that, we really can't get. Now, if I was going to ask you and allowed you to respond freely, your answers would be very different, wouldn't they? Oh, I can't hear you now.
Yeah, my answers would have been really different.
They would have been completely different. And that's the thing. We're really, I understand why many of us are using survey scales, but they don't really tap into the right answers. Now, my next slide might surprise you. It's Pampers. Now, the reason why I chose Pampers is that many of us in L&D are taking more of a product mindset. Now, if you look back at the first Pampers that came, the nappies that came out by Procter and Gamble, back in the 20s or 30s, the product has continuously improved. And they've done that from really listening to the customer voice, but they didn't do it with surveys. Their wealth of information, such as when they discovered that a baby having a good night's sleep also gave a parents the good night's sleep, and that it actually helped the baby's cognitive development. Those types of insights that revolutionized how they, in terms of how they marketed their product, that came from qualitative insight. And it only takes one person in your, when you're listening to the customer voice or in the context of L&D, it only takes one person saying something that really has that aha moment. And you just can't get that from a survey. So that makes us think that qualitative data is far, far more revealing. Now, the thing is, though, we really need actionable insights, and that demands granularity. So imagine if you're designing for impact, you might get a sense from a survey, let's say 1 to 5, rate the quality of the content. Now, content quality, you might think, oh, well, that's granular enough. But then what could it be? Is it the relevance of that content to their role or their needs? Or is it the depth of the content? Or is it actually the breadth or contemporary? Is it outdated or is it up to date? What about the level that content is pitched at? Is it too easy? Is it too difficult? Or is it just right? And there are so many different aspects to what we mean by content quality. So if you're an instructional designer, you could go off down many different rabbit holes trying to improve it in lots of different ways because let's say, for instance, the content quality is not being perceived. But if you can actually drill it down, for instance, it's not breadth, it's covering all the right topics, but in some certain areas, your learners want more depth. Then, one, you're not wasting your time improving it in ways that you don't need to, but you can really just focus on that one aspect to lift up the whole experience and increase the value. So, unlike a survey, with qualitative feedback, we can really get into, give us ways to really target our improvements to increase the value. So what we've been doing over months and months now, and it's a huge investment, is we have been studying tens of thousands of learner feedback from all different sources. The diversity of data has been hugely important, whether it's executive education or a webinar, a 40-minute webinar to, and different audiences, feedback from, all different types of learners. And we have discovered, this is just a handful of them, of different aspects that we can measure of the learning experience. And we've so far identified 15 dimensions and got over 120 aspect codes. Now, if you have just one data set, you're not going to find all that, but it just means that if you gather feedback, it what we're developing using AI is that it can pick up anything, so you can allow those targeted improvements. So you wonder why, because we already have got lots of learner feedback. Why are we missing that gold? Well, the first thing is many people are not mining that information. If you've, let's say, got tens of thousands of learner feedbacks, it takes ages to analyze it. We know that we're processing on average only 30 comments each hour to get that granular insight. Now, obviously with AI, it would be done in seconds, but in order to train AI to be able to do it, it is taking months and months of work. So one reason why we're missing the gold in the feedback is because it's so time intensive. But for any of you that have got experience in looking at those learner feedback, why aren't we extracting that granular feedback? And there's a few reasons from the science. One is called inattentional blindness. We quite often, when we're scanning, reading through the learner feedback, our eyes are drawn to what we're looking for, not what we're necessarily actively looking for, and we overlook insights even though they're right in front of us. And the other thing is it's compared to numbers, unstructured text, it quickly becomes really overwhelming, and we tend to just naturally skim through it and oversimplify. And that surface level scanning means that we tend to see feedback as noise, and we overlook the signal even though it's right under our noses. So everybody is sitting on this gold, but we're not, we're either not looking at it because it takes too much time and therefore money to derive that value, or we're missing it because we're scanning through it too quickly. It's amazing what we mix. I remember when we first started out doing this months ago, we could see some stuff, but when we went back over it, we saw so much more. Now, what we're aiming for is you get really granular insights. And this is, a pretty short comment, but even so, we can pick up bits and pieces that are important, such as learning transfer, have started to use these skills, etc., etc. Now, some comments are really long, and they are definitely, just pure gold. But there again, some people might ask, they might just share, great course. Well, that is quite superficial. We're not really getting the insights. So we are all sitting on this gold that the AI tool that we're developing will be able to pick up on. But there are some tips where we can get more gold. And that's what I want to share next, is to get really more golden feedback. I think it's important that we start asking better questions, because quite often we might have some survey questions and then the added on, question, what did you like most about this course, or what improvements would you suggest? However, if we're more tangible in what we're asking for, such as what was your experience of the course itself, so you measure the learning experience and see what comes back. But then we also ask questions such as, have you had a chance to apply your learning? And if so, what? And then how did this course develop you professionally? And then go on and ask, has it contributed to business goals or outcomes? Now, we could do away with the whole survey, because I can show you later that we can quantify this. But if we ask 3 or 4 really specific questions, we will be able to unearth even more gold. So the way we're trying to work this is that we can really turn this feedback into gold. Now, at the start of my presentation, we talked about what does gold look like. So I'm comparing here what quantitative surveys can give us, what it would take manually to analyze this data. And if any of you have really gone in depth, you'll know it's not fast, or what can happen with feedback analytics. And so we can see that surveys, why they have been the best tool so far, because they're so fast, budget friendly, easy to do, very scalable, automated, and can repeat it. However, we're overlooking the real value. We can't, as we saw with my few questions at Nicola, that you can't really express what you really want to. And the questions are led by us, not by the learners, and aren't as actionable because we're not getting those granular insights. Now, I've been manually analysing qualitative data for over 25 years. It is so slow. Now, if you have, let's say, 1,000 comments and you're analysing it in the granular way that our AI tool, that would take about 50 hours and would cost about $2,500. Let's say if that whoever's doing that is $50 an hour. It's just understandably just not an attractive option. And it's not so easy to do. But in contrast with AI and with our specifically trained AI, we can tick off all these boxes and be able very rapidly at a fraction of the price of if you were to do it manually. With all these other things, we can tick all those boxes. So that's what we're working towards at the moment. It's not ready, but all I can say is with qualitative data, the real gold is there. We do need to ask better questions. So in terms of rethinking learning evaluation, everybody does have the gold. Many people are sitting on feedback data, but if it was mined in the right way, soon you'll be able to mine it with the right tools to be able to help you improve and prove the value of what you're doing. And I think that went rather quickly. So I'd love a Q&A.
Great. So we have enough time for questions and answers. Yeah. So I love the part that you were able to prove that these questions where you just, you have a range of questions from you answer, was it 10? I've forgotten, just went off my head now. How do you describe when you have a range of levels to answer your question?
Well, here's the thing. When you have a survey, you have a limited number of questions that you can ask. Yeah. Now, having analysed tens of thousands of user comments, we discovered there's over 120 codes. Now, you can't ask 120 questions. Can you imagine going through a survey asking just on the off chance that you might find that nugget? So obviously our interaction was I made you answer those questions on a 1 to 5 scale. You just can't get, if I had said what had brought you into, what had attracted you into L&D, you would have given me this beautiful, rich response.
Yes.
And what our tool, AI tool, is there to do is to help people analyze that in minutes, get the data back, and it's because it's content analysis, it would still give you quantitative. It would be able to say that 26% of respondents are concerned about this or love this. So it's still quantitative, but it's based on whatever you say. So it's really capturing the richness and the real meaning behind your words, rather than just using numbers that don't tell us the full story.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, asking questions on this scale limits you in the details and the depth of the information that you can provide. Yeah, but when you ask open-ended questions, it helps the person to really express themselves, tell their story, and you're able to get more insight. I really like that part.
Yeah. And we want to make it easy, so someone could literally upload an Excel file and then minutes later they download it. It's all the data, it's presented, and we're going to do it offer it as an API product, which means that LMSs, think how many LMSs are out there. They'd be able to connect to our model and to be able to supply their clients with insights. Or if you're a consultant, we know that budgets are so low. If you're if you're an evaluation consultant, you'd be able to use our tool, but invest your time in taking those insights and delivering a report that was really actionable. But most enterprises won't hire a consultant to analyze tens of thousands or 1,000 data. But so it opens up opportunities for impact evaluation consultants to use our tool, but instead charge for their time for writing up a report on the results. So we want it to be this AI feedback analytics tool to be available to anybody, whether you're a one-person band up to a large enterprise, to LMSs and things like that. So we can really start proving our value, as well as using those insights to improve what we do. And like Pampers, instead of having a one-off product that just stays the same for the next 5 years, we can improve it in a really targeted way. So our improvements are more effective and less time consuming to make, because we know exactly what to do. Yeah,
amazing. Can you tell us a bit about the peer model? Because I had the opportunity to listen to you about your peer model of evaluation. Can you just talk a bit about it?
Okay, so our peer model, we do need to publish a white paper on it. It's pretty much there, but peer is a framework. Yeah, unsurprisingly, given the name, it's pairs. So we have two pairs. So the pair is, one pair is product, application, impact, and value. So that's what you're looking for. So you're looking to see how well the product was received and the experience of actually using the product, then to measure application, learning transfer, then measure the impact, and then look at the value of that to the business or organization or society, depending on what you're focused on. But there's another pair, and my brain has just gone blank. The first P is purpose. So before you even start designing anything, you need to think about what is the purpose of the learning experience. So to really anchor what you're doing. Now that might be improving an aspect of the business or something like that. And then I see gosh, it's just so bizarre, because I've been working months and months now on this AI product that I have forgotten my own framework. I know the first pair is reflection, because that's totally missed. The I is interactivity, and the A, I don't know why my brain has just gone alignment. That makes me think
yes.
So yeah, we've had some interest. Really, I'm really looking forward to Andrew's talk later today. But yes, so the pair is, one is an evaluation pair, but the first pair is planning. So before you do anything, you really think about the real purpose. You then think, how is it aligned? Is everybody aligned, all on the same page? Yeah. And then you look at who is it interacting with. You really think about who you're trying to reach in terms of interactivity, also what interactivity you need to build in, because we do need behaviorally engaged, whether it's a webinar, a training program, a workshop, interaction is key. And then our reflection, not just inviting the learner to reflect, but inviting us to reflect on our own performance and what we're doing and what we can learn and grow from through the process.
Yeah, that's great. So there's a question in the chat from Everly. Says, do you apply Kirkpatrick evaluation model, and when do you send the evaluation form to learners, e.g. right after training a certain time?
That's a really good question, Everly. There's so many great frameworks out there. If I know Kirkpatrick is popular, if that's your chosen one, I would definitely ask questions immediately after, but then, because impact takes time, it's important to ask questions a few months down the line too. And, you know, in an ideal world, we'd be asking at more regular intervals, because we know that learning, the impact can fall off a cliff unless we're nudged. So to really capture and measure that value, I would, whether it's Kirkpatrick or LTM or PAIR or whichever framework that you choose, is to ask it immediately after to get the initial impressions, but then ask it over time so you can really capture the full value of the amazing work that you're doing.
Yeah, that's right. Do we have any more questions? We're drawing close to the end of this session. And let's not forget the reflection tree. I think it's time for me to share the reflection tree now. Okay, so there's another question. What's your advice on increasing the response from learners? Usually, learners not answering the feedback form. Yeah.
That's again another great question. So you could answer that in a couple of different ways, Everly. In terms of response rate, whether it's a survey tool or an open-ended question, response rate is always problematic. First, I would say that when it comes to comments, it tends to be the people who really, it's either the promoters, they really care about and appreciate what you've done and they want to share why, and the detractors, the ones who want to leave constructive or even really negative feedback. We're learning from two important groups that we can learn from. So there's still value, even if our response rate is only about 10%, which is typical. But to increase it, I think we need to rethink how we incentivize that. And I would like to see more employers link feedback to link it to in the employee benefits, because that the employee voice is hugely important. And if people realize that feedback was a way of demonstrating that they have transferred that learning and they've used it, and more important, they've used it to great value to that business, that feedback needs to be recognized. So I think we need to rethink how we incentivize it, because some people with traditional surveys, they might say, you know, win a $20 voucher to Amazon or whatever. That's not the right way. But if we could link it back, share with us, so, you know, they have a record of how they're actually using that learning to improve their own performance. So see it as, say, you know, this is your way of evidencing your way of, you know, the impact that they're creating based on the learning experience. I don't know if that answers your question properly, but there are various ways, and, you know, one could be just explain how important it is and their voice is actually being really listened to. Now, I'm really hoping when we release our AI tool, that will mean that a lot more of the learner voice is actually listened to, because at the moment it's just sitting there, to use the goldfield analogy, it's sitting there underground, untapped. But if we show that we're analyzing that feedback and we're showing that it makes a difference, people might be more willing to actually give their feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I think there's another. Okay, so that's things from Everly. The challenge we usually face is virtual learning. Learners are too busy working after the training session, and to them, evaluation form is not priority. Hence, we usually send form right after the training. But I totally agree that we need to send it out after 3 months each to evaluate the impact. Yeah.
And don't treat it as an either or. Do it both immediately after and do it after.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, you know, Peter's comment about, you know, it's a really good analogy with TripAdvisor, you know, TripAdvisor or Booking.com or whichever one. But those are the people, those are your promoters and those are your detractors. Those are the ones that have taken an effort, and their voices, you know, we need to, you know, really recognize that the learner voice more and value it more And I think hopefully create a virtuous cycle that people realize that they're making a difference when they do provide feedback.
All right, amazing. So that brings us to the end of this session. We have just 2 minutes before the next session starts, and I totally enjoyed this session. So the link to this tree is still in the chat. I'll share it immediately we start the next session, so that if you still want to put in your reflection, you want to put it, this is a time to do it before you forget. And if you look at the tree, you can see I'm putting the names of the speakers so that you know where to put the reflection. This is to also help people who did not attend to have an idea of what we learned, the takeaways, even apart from watching the videos. The QR code on the other side of the tree are for you to connect to the Elite community on LinkedIn, Instagram, Discord, and if you want to contribute to sustain future events, which are always free. So right now, again, I'm going to end this session so that the recording can be available for everyone individually. So you're going to be kicked out. So you can just come in again. So thank you all. Let's show some love to Dr. Nicola. Thank you so much for this session.
Thank you.
It's packed with so much value. I totally enjoyed it.
You've
Let's show love with the reactions. You can use the soundboard. I like to use the soundboard. It's amazing. So see you guys in the next class. Bye for now.